Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. Good morning, good morning. It's always a great morning, as we would say on the Good Morning Education Show. And we are welcoming you to Friday edition of the Good Morning Education Show. It's such a pleasure to have you here. And I know the show promises to be a good time, a great time on the show. Please feel free to tell us your name or where you're streaming from, and we also um, want to know your name, your location. We want you to feel free to connect with us and share with us, as we join the show today. And the Good Morning Education Show is a show that spans all through the week, every day, Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time. And then, of course, on Saturday is 10 a.m., 9 a.m. to 10, yeah, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. West African time. On Sunday, however, it is 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. West African time. It's always a great pleasure to host people, to have people like you join us on the show. Today is not going to be an exception. We're going to be having a great time on the show this morning, and we're going to be spending a lot more time, sharing and letting you know the wonderful things that we have in store for you on the Good Morning Education Show. So uh, please feel free and also let us know your thoughts about the conversation of today. And it's always, like we say, a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. And today we're going to be going straight to talk about the teacher perception. If you've been following us on the Good Morning Education Show, you will notice that we had a bit of a focus this Monday, talking about you having a life this year, all right. Um, and then we moved over to looking at it that should we teach forever. Talked about tech transition for teachers, and then yesterday we talked about exploring the world. Each subject matter that we've been having as our discussion on the show has been adequately addressing certain needs, certain issues, certain areas, you know, that we must not ignore, that we must find useful, that we must get involved in, and I believe that most people are getting the kind of value they really love and they really deserve. And today we're going to spend more time, still on conversations around this topic, right? We want to be able to help everyone as much as possible to get the better understanding of what we are trying to do, what we're trying to share on the show. We will be having some of our guests, analysts, possibly joining us on the show, and we're going to rub minds together so that we have different key perspectives as to what it really means, on the subject matter that we have today. And today we're going to also spend time, to look at in details, in real details, some things that I believe that we should not ignore for anything. Our topic is the teacher perception. What does it really mean? What are we talking about? Why are we talking about this? Why is it essential? Why is it necessary? Why is it that you and I need to spend time to really talk about these things so that um, the individuals that are concerned can easily get to know what it is to do, how to navigate, and also how to position themselves for eventual success. That's really what we're talking about today. And of course, we know it's a Thank God It's Friday edition. So I wish you also share with me your thoughts and your perspective about it. So, welcome everyone to the Good Body Education Show. Um, so, I'm going to start by saying, what exactly can we identify or classify uh, uh, as perception. I believe that perception is a very powerful word. It's a strong word we must not ignore. Perception, people have said, actually defines everything. In fact, it shapes everything. Our perception is considered as a mirrored image and outlook to what we see and what we believe. In other words, by your outlook, by what you mirror, you consider interpretation. In other words, perception can actually define true meaning, perception can define true value. In fact, perception can almost help you to categorize something as good or bad. There was a viral image that was on social media some time ago where there was an image that showed two individuals looking at an object or a figure on the floor. And the one to the right was saying that this figure is the figure nine, while the other one was arguing that no, it's not the figure nine, it's the figure six. Now, if you take a look at their argument, you realize that it's a clash of perception. And that one is looking at something from a point of view, hence his perception about what it is. And the other is also looking at it from another point of view, hence the perception about the figure. And that's just telling you that perception creates reality. And when you think about it, it is something you need to write down. Perception creates reality. It's creating a reality every time, every day. Even when we talk about fear and we are afraid of something, or we are considering doing, are hindered from doing something, or we are cautioned from doing something, perception goes a long way in defining what you're afraid of. A lot of people have the perception that if you go to probably the Atlantic or the beach, and you step into the water and you try to swim in that water, you are going to drown or you're going to have some mishap. And because of that perception, a lot of people would not even venture to visit the beach. Talk less of when they get to the beach, going close to the water, right? Now, perception can immobilize an individual, a professional, a career professional as well. And you will realize that it is where strong resonance lies. And so now we're talking about the teacher perception. We need to realize that that is actually what is also affecting the teacher reality. That once we can discuss about the teacher perception, then ultimately it's not strange for us to talk about the teacher reality. The teacher reality is something that requires urgent attention, because a lot of times when you think about the reality teachers have, you begin to think about it that there are things that happen to teachers that they don't like, things that happen to them that they don't like, things that they hope for that they don't see, things that they desire but they don't experience. Now, what this simply means is that it has to be an address, or there has to be some measure of solution from perception before we get to shape reality. My brother will put it at this in this way. He will say, change your perception, change your reality. In other words, when we have a perception change, when we have a change in perception, it ultimately would facilitate a change in reality. So when we have change perception, the change reality is the next thing that follows. And I'm sure that you're thinking about it. Are there several perceptions about the teacher? Yes. There are several perceptions about the teaching profession. A lot of people see it as the last option, to explore when you don't have anything working out for you. So people look at it as a dump kind of profession. People look at it as a relegated profession, an unappreciated profession. People believe that if you're a teacher, it means that you did not have any chance at anything great in life. Some people think about it and say, well, the function of teaching is important, but the person of the teacher is most time considered. It's just like when you think about the people who clean up after people, the people who do um, um, how to put it, maybe people who do menial jobs, or people who clean up, people who do house chores. A lot of times The chores are important, but the people are not considered important because something has to be done, but who has to do it is not considered in high pedigree. Hence, the value and remuneration is also affected. But I think it's very important that there are different sides to this that we must address. If perception is bad, what causes that perception to be bad? We must be mindful of the fact that a lot of times we are the ones that shape the perception that people have about us. And how does this happen? Number one, through the kind of performance. You see, performance shapes perception, perception shapes reality. And so when you think about it, most people who have come to a point to consider teachers in a particular light, or to consider some kind of teachers in a particular light, is because of some of the performances they've witnessed, they've experienced, or that these people have to show, or that these people have failed to show. And when you fail to show performance at a level, or performance that is consistent, or performance that is credit worthy or creditable, that is praiseworthy, it begins to shape reality. And sometimes, unfortunately, people begin to give one size fits all judgment on teachers. And they say, teachers, just because they encountered one or two, they say teachers, just because they encountered four or five. And this is where it begins. So, as you listen to us today, understand that you can't just say, oh, no, 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 we're not appreciating teachers. No, we should have, no, listen, can we spend time to ask ourselves, beyond the desire to be appreciated, what exactly are we bringing to the table? What kind of performance are we bringing to the table? A lot of times, are we sour in the mouth of superiors and employers? Do we create a sour taste in the experience of learning for students? Are we responsible for the sour outcomes when we say children, students pass through us? We need to think about it. And this is not just for the K-12 industry. It also applies to tertiary institutions, universities. We need to understand that the perception about teachers generally begins with their performance. If we can make up our mind to boost performance, to improve performance, to ensure that our performance are worthy of reputation, worthy of emulation, I think that it will begin to alter perception. Performance is very, very, very important when it comes to this. We've seen many people perform excellently well to the point that they become role models, they become people that you almost have, a special award for. You have that special gravitation of people towards performance. When your performance is poor, however, when your performance is not peak, guess what happens? People begin to refrain, they begin to withdraw, they begin to say, well, seems like this is not what we planned for, this is not what we want, this is not what we desire. That is some measure or way to look at it. Now, take a step further. Excuse me. Take a step further. Performance shapes reality because performance shapes perception. But then also in performance, there's a little step that we must not ignore, and it's called professionalism. Now, professionalism envelopes performance in some cases. A lot of people need to realize that the teacher perception, right, should also be seen from the angle of the teacher's professionalism. The level of professionalism we present and we bring to bear, that we bring to fore, actually will shape the perception that people have of us. I'm sure that some people have witnessed professional teachers and unprofessional teachers. Professional teachers not because they earn from teaching alone, but people who have acted by process and procedure in professional standards, in professional manner, with professional benchmarks. You've seen those who have not acted too professionally. In the discharge of duty, they're not being professional. In the way they carry themselves, they're not being professional. Sometimes in their outlook of dressing, they're not so professional. you will begin to see that even the entire perception about who they are, the value they carry, the connect they have with their audiences, you can almost sense that based on their level of professionalism, you can tell the perception that will follow. Sometimes respect is earned when professionalism appears. And a lot of us must begin to think about this. Respect is earned, and sometimes respect is something that will definitely appear as a result of the presence of professionalism. So we've talked about the first one, which is what? Talk about the first one, which is your performance. The second thing is professionalism. Now, the third thing, uh, it's a bit sensitive, but permit me to use this because we're talking about um, the teacher perception, and this aspect has a lot to do with the physical dimension, and that is the physical form of teacher. Now, you could also say that it looks like professionalism, but not necessarily so. Some people can be very professional, but they've not paid attention to their physical form. Their performance might sometimes even be good, but there's still a gap of connect. The physical form of a teacher is very important, and the physical form is the physical form. We are not subscribing to teachers being slim, having six packs for men, tall, and all that, looking like a model. No, it's living in the real world. That's not what we're trying to say. What we are trying to say, however, is that we want a scenario where teachers carry themselves at their best behavior and they are looking their best. They are spending time to take care of the physical form, whichever way it may come out across. So they know that their performance is right, and they know that they have professionalism, and then their physical form is very, very important, which follows the next one, which is what we call the persona, the teacher persona. The teacher persona also develops a huge perception of the teacher. And so persona takes a lot of precedence um, in that regard. Now, there's something I'm going to add. Now, remember, we started about talking about the perception shaped by performance, professionalism, physical form, right? We've talked about persona, right? And then we need to talk about posture. The teacher's posture this time around also affects, now posture not in terms of physique now. Posture is, or you can also add disposition. What is my posture towards a matter? Am I leaning in over a matter? Am I leaning in? Am I refraining? A lot of us must appear to be knowledgeable. We must we must sound knowledgeable. We must appear to be intellectuals. We cannot afford to look like people who are not informed. So our posture of matters should be that of being informed. Our philosophy should show that we are embracing more. We're embracing totality of our profession, our career, and we actually stand out for much more. These are things that easily shapes people's perception. And when you are able to understand that, then you're able to deal with it. Sometimes people say, well, they don't appreciate teachers and all that. They look at us as this, or and then sometimes when you hear teachers talk, you almost could sense and tell that sometimes, over an average, this is a teacher. Probably because of the things they say, probably because of the way they complain, probably because they felt a lot of frustration. And I think it's high time that we begin to counsel teachers to watch out for positive communal behavior signs and also refrain from negative communal behavior signs. And I'll explain what I'm trying to say. You see, when you think about teachers, um, you can't run away from communal behavior. Communal behavior is almost like the pattern or the way that everybody in that sector or everybody in that profession tends to behave. So there's a perception you have about your employer, especially if you're in the private sector or you're working with private schools. You know, sometimes there's a general perception you have about your employer. I mean, by the average, and that sometimes creates a perception. You know, oh yes, teachers will never appreciate. Teachers will never use resources well. They will never show ownership mentality. Blah 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 blah. Oh, they don't see us and that. They don't, but then when we begin to think about when we appear in public forum, you find out that teachers themselves already are fitting into the script that has been written ahead of them. There they are. They will need to be controlled. They will need to be told instruction. They will need to be calm. You know, it will almost shock you to see one who is actually outside of that mold and causing herself a teacher. You're like, are you serious? You're a teacher? And you want to know more. Why? Because conventionally, that person is not acting in the communal behavior of the lot, where you have a lot of people doing certain things in certain ways, with certain principles, with certain behavior, with certain disposition and certain manner, right? And that's very, very critical. You know, we must begin to push frontiers. I know some years ago, some people were saying that we need to brand teachers, and I said I don't think that we need to brand teachers, because if you need to brand teachers, that becomes a problem. Because what you are branding them to, then they become affixed and they fix themselves in that kind of mold. Teachers need to understand if we have to fight for them to brand themselves, and there's something key missing. It has to be self-image that you yourself can. You don't wait for external validation, because if it ceases, if it stops, or if it doesn't come the way you want it, it will affect you as well. So your self-image must be very, 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 very important to you. You must work on it, because it's your self-image that talks about your self-worth. It's your self-worth that begins to help you understand your bargaining power to things and life. It's this bargaining power to things and life that helps you to shape your life's reality. Because if you don't value yourself, you won't have positive self-image. If you don't have a positive self-image, guess what? It will affect your sense of worth. It's your sense of worth that will now make you think you don't have the right offer of value. Well, I'm offering value. I'm adding to your success story. I'm adding to build lives. I'm transforming society. Your offer of value is what strengthens your understanding of your bargaining power. A lot of teachers out there don't even have bargaining power. Why? Not because they don't know what to charge. And I'm not talking about charging alone, but I'm talking about it from the angle of tracing it back to offer of value. What do you offer? What are you bringing to the table? For you to even know what you're bringing to the table, you must even feel that you are someone that has value to offer. You are someone that has value to offer. And that means you must have a worthy sense of worth. Your sense of worth is very key. So that's almost like the bedrock of how the journey starts. The teacher perception is something that we must respond to in our own level of our ability. We must begin to think about it, that if we will share our stories in a positive light, if we showcase our exploits in positive light, if we begin to share stories of success, if we begin to share things that were difficult that were surmounted, people will have a different perception about teachers. Or if all we share is that we need hampers, we need to feed from hand to mouth. I'm not saying we are denying the reality, but we also need to understand it is what we give out there that shapes reality. Remember, I said perception creates reality. If you want to change your reality, you have to change people's perception. You have to change your perception. If you feel that you are always a victim, you will feel helpless. And guess what you portray? You portray a message of helplessness and hopelessness. Guess what it will lead to? It will lead you to be in a state of being immobile, a state where you can't do anything with and for yourself. You will always look out for things to happen for you, look out for things to happen to you, as opposed to you happening to things. And so that perception must work from internal before we go external. I think if we begin to share stories, you know how it is when we search um, the web and then we see discoveries, we see inventions, we see innovation. It's not because people are not innovative. I don't want to think so. It's not because people are not intelligent. I don't want to think so. It's not because people don't have ideas. I definitely don't want to think so. I think it's because a lot of times these things are not showcased, or they are not showcased well enough. And when you do not showcase strides, when you do not showcase attempts, when you do not showcase results and successes, what happens is it feels like nothing ever happened. Have you ever spent time to look at the word show biz? Show business, business of showing. The show business world is a world of show. And we need to tap from that if it's not seen in today's world, it's possibly seen that it does not exist. And that's why sometimes, even if you are conservative or private in nature, you must be mindful and a bit more deliberate and intentional to at least let some things be seen. Some things have to be seen. Oh, teachers are transforming life, even with little or no resource. Look at the creativity, how this person turned the tide of a bad performance into a most improved performance. Look at the way these people have been able to manage behavior using indigenous techniques or local philosophy. Look at how they use stories to flip not just the classroom, but to flip behavior and learners' outcome. These are things that will make rounds, and the more we share it with boldness and confidence in authentic nature that it comes from, people begin to ask themselves, I think we can copy this. I think we can copy this. If we ever spend time to look at the things we've once adopted, you will see that those things we've once adopted were because we were seeing them. They were discovered, they were found, they were put out there for us to see. Ade Lola George, welcome to the show. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. It's been a long time. Good to see you. Please, if you're joining us for the first time, let us know. We want to welcome you specially. And if, of course, uh, it's not your first time, but I know that people are joining us, just send in your name. Just say hello, streaming from Abuja, streaming from India. This is so. Please do let us know. We want to appreciate you, want to thank you. And also welcome your comments. If you have questions on the show, please feel free to ask your questions. If you have contributions, please make your contributions. Uh, we're going to share that as well. All right. So thank you. So yes. So as we're talking about it, talking about the teacher perception, I know it's a short session, but it's something I hope you find valuable. You must spend time to make sure that you are putting out the right narrative. Let's put out the positive messaging. Let's seek out good things that are happening, and it will make others to reach out to us to share their own success stories, to compare success stories, and then people begin to appreciate our stories much better than they used to, or they begin to even know that we have stories. There's a problem that a lot of people feel about us not being taught history well enough. But the truth about it is that have we also preserved history well enough? Have we shared history well enough? Have we showcased history well? Now, when I say history, I'm not talking about the galvanized one that people have accepted and adopted, but your own story is history. When you break history into two, you have his story. What is your story about your work, about your experience, about your path, about your effort, about your profession? Share your story. Share it, save it, preserve it. Many people write blogs. A lot of people write blogs. Many people write blogs. And in those blogs, they say, I remember one remarkable thing about Adelola that's joined us online. He has what you call real gist. I think autism gist with Adelola, one of the two. And sometimes you just gist with Adelola, and she spends time to make her daily experiences so real that you're almost reliving it with her. You're almost immersed in that experience. That is what will help change perception. That is what will even make people learn faster. That's what will make people appreciate your work better. And that eventually is what will make perception turn into reality. Right? It's been a great time on the show this morning, and we don't want to waste too much time. If we're not having any question this morning, I'm going to put it up as this is where we're going to stop. So thank you everyone for joining us. Remember, we'll be here tomorrow, but it will be 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And on Sunday, it'll be 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. The Good Morning Education Show is a show where we sit down together, we learn together, we share together. We also end up growing together. Make sure you're part of this. Don't miss it for anything. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same no, not same time as tomorrow is Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Normally, one Mondays to Fridays is Mondays to Friday is 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hosting you. My name is Rotimi Tayo. I'm a growth expert and strategist and the host of the Good Morning Education Show. And I believe that we'll end by saying our favorite words, which is it is always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. You can try and say it with me as well. It is always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. One more time. It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Have a great weekend ahead. Shape perception, change perception, and then you have a change of reality. Thank you, and God bless.